I'm so honored to be speaking with you today, especially because I'm what I affectionately call an accidental Jewish communal professional. I didn't plan this career. I didn't have a 5-year plan that led to federation work. Truth be told, I didn't even know what a federation was when I began as an associate director, and I'm still not entirely certain how or why I was hired for that position. I'm fairly certain, though, that no one's 5-year plan includes phrases like campaign season, allocations formula, or can we circle back to this after the finance committee meets? And yet, this work found me. Or maybe even more truthfully, it kept inviting me forward. And it continues to challenge me in the very best ways. When I talk about growth from federation to federation, I'm not talking about strategy or structure. I'm talking about personal and professional growth, about what it means to stay in this work long enough to be challenged by it. I began as the number 2 professional in Jacksonville, Florida, at the ripe age of 24, learning how a community works from the inside, how to build trust, and how decisions ripple outward. From there, I became a CEO in Western Massachusetts. Yay! Carrying the weight of leadership for the very first time. Then Rochester, New York. All right, another community, another chapter, the same work, but with deeper stakes and a broader lens. And now, stepping into Greater Metro West New Jersey, with gratitude for everything those earlier communities taught me, and deep respect for what it means to lead Jewish life in a complex, dynamic, and very large community. In each of these communities, I had the honor and the responsibility of being the first woman to serve as CEO. Thank you. Thank you. I don't say that as a headline. I say it because it matters. Being a woman in the C-suite of Jewish communal life means understanding that leadership is not about authority, it's about visibility. It means knowing that how you lead can quietly expand what leadership looks like for others, and it means carrying opportunity and responsibility at the very same time. What's striking to me is that while the communities changed, the core of our work did not. It has always been about building Jewish life intentionally, responsibly, and together. Each federation asked something a little more of me, not just more skill, but more judgment, more courage, more clarity and vision. And I want to say this clearly, especially to earlier career professionals in the room, growth does not only happen by leaving. Federation offers the opportunity to grow within a community, to deepen impact over time, to evolve professionally while staying rooted, and I did both. My story reflects one path, but it's not the only meaningful one. What matters is that this field makes room for growth in many forms. There's a teaching from Pirkei Avot that grounds the work for me. It teaches that the world stands on learning, service, and acts of loving kindness. 3 legs that only hold when they support one another. Federation is where those values become real. Last week, Brett Stevens spoke at the 92nd Street Y about the moment we are living in. I know. About moral clarity, about responsibility, and about the danger of disengagement. He warned against the temptation to retreat, to sit on the sidelines, or to mistake silence and neutrality for wisdom when values are under pressure. Early in his remarks, he reminded us that moments like this do not just test institutions, they test people. They ask whether we are willing to stay engaged, to think rigorously, and to act with conviction, even when it would be easier not to. Listening to him, I kept thinking about Jewish communal professionals. We don't have the luxury of disengagement. We don't opt out of this moment. We lean in. We are not commentators on Jewish life. We are the builders of it. Later, you can try, it's fine. Later in his talk, Bret Stephens pushed even further, warning about the erosion of moral confidence and the cost of false equivalence. He challenged his audience to resist softening truth for the sake of comfort, and to remember that strong communities depend on people willing to take responsibility when the stakes are high. That challenge lands squarely on us, because in a post-October 7 world, the greatest privilege we have is not comfort, it's responsibility. The responsibility to strengthen Jewish life when it's under pressure, to build communities that are resilient, visible, and unapologetically Jewish, to turn values into action day after day, community by community, with strength, care, reach, and purpose. Federation is how we do that, and none of us does this alone. My growth in this work has been made possible by friends who reminded me who I am beyond my title, by family who grounded me when the work felt heavy, especially in the last several years, and by colleagues across federations who challenged me, supported me, and trusted me with responsibility before I felt fully ready. That support is not incidental to success, it's essential to it. So when I look back on my journey from federation to federation, I don't see a ladder. I see a responsibility I was trusted with within a shared enterprise bigger than any one of us, a profession that invests in people, a system that builds leaders, and a moment in history that demands our very best. I may have entered this work accidentally, and I feel incredibly lucky to be here. But I choose to stay with gratitude, with intention, and with a deep belief that strengthening Jewish life in this moment is one of the greatest opportunities we are given. And federation is where all of us have the honor and privilege to rise and meet it together and with fortitude. May we go from strength to strength. Thank you.
When I moved to Miami in 2020 on Erev Yom Kippur, I called my mom the next day to check in. She asked how I was doing. I said hungry, and she asked why. My wonderful mom is many things: doting, supportive, generous. Jewishly engaged is not one of them. She's so secular, she didn't realize it was Yom Kippur. And that's the house I was raised in. In that house, a future where I am standing on a stage at a conference for Jewish community professionals didn't exist. And a question I wrestle with is, how did I get from there to here? At 23, I decided on a whim I was moving to Phoenix. I had a friend whose well-connected parents helped me arrange an interview as a staff writer for the Jewish News of Greater Phoenix. I desperately didn't want to work for a Jewish organization. I needed a job. Suddenly, I found myself in a space where I was forced to think about Judaism daily. I attended ADL and APAC events. I shadowed Jewish chaplains through hospitals. I entered Orthodox spaces, and I learned about kashrut. And when a local Jewish organization offered an education course called Islam 101, taught by a man who I knew to be an Islamophobe, I wrote an article. And when that article didn't get the attention I felt it deserved, I wrote another one, and he got fired. I was onto something, not just professionally, but personally. And eventually, I called the ADL regional director, who had become a friend and mentor, and said, instead of writing about all of the awesome work you guys are doing, How about I come do it? I was drawn to ADL's dual mission to stop the defamation of the Jewish people and to secure justice and fair treatment to all. It made perfect sense. Like Rabbi Hillel asks in Pirkei Avot, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? And if I am only for myself, what am I? For a secular kid who had stumbled onto this work, standing on one foot, that was my Torah. When the Tree of Life shooting happened in Pittsburgh, I was living in Pittsburgh and working for Federation. And as painful as those moments were, my theory held firm. The Muslim community raised $240,000 for the families of the victims. Black leaders immediately arranged a press conference in solidarity. Even the Bhutanese community arranged a vigil in a park and invited us to join. Fast forward 5 years to October 7th. My Muslim friend, who I had collaborated with to make sure his community dollars ended up in the right place, was now the chief of staff for a member of the squad. Prominent black clergy in Miami, where I was now living, insisted that October 7th was only an extension of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and not a genocidal assault on the entire Jewish people. And some of the same folks who had stood with us arm in arm against white supremacists after the Tree of Life shooting were now vandalizing Jewish spaces in support of Hamas. In a historically traumatic moment for the Jewish people, most of our friends didn't show up. And alongside my grief and my horror, I was confronting a deeper internal reckoning about my principles that I thought I'd settled. I still believe in broad coalitions. I still believe our safety is bound up with the safety of others. But I no longer confuse partnership with permanence or solidarity with certainty. Allyship is not a lifetime membership card. It's a choice people make again and again. And I find myself now unapologetically motivated by Jewish strength, Jewish security, and Jewish continuity, not because I've given up on the world, but because experience has clarified for me how much responsibility we have for our own future. And I've realized that my professional growth and my Jewish identity aren't unfolding on separate tracks. They're growing together. And in trusting myself enough to follow that path, I've ended up exactly where I need to be. Some days this work feels like a slog. And on those days, when a donor or my supervisor or JFNA asks, "What have you accomplished recently?" I freeze. And then I take a breath and I remind myself, I've brought in millions of dollars from the state of Florida to support Holocaust education. I helped pass legislation that shut down a white supremacist group. And I'm building the Miami Alliance Against Anti-Semitism, and my biggest champion is a state senator that I brought to Israel. And then I zoom out more, because this work isn't about wins and losses, it's about Jewish values lived out loud. I didn't grow up with that understanding. My mom still doesn't know when Yom Kippur is. But she knows something just as important, that community matters, that people need each other, and that showing up time after time is what gives life meaning. And that's what brought me from there to here. And that's what brings all of us back to this work every day. Not because it's easy, but because it's ours.
Although my dad was born Jewish, I didn't start out raised in a Jewish life. I came to it a bit later, thanks to my mom, who out of curiosity and the desire to expand my horizons, signed our whole family up to an Introduction to Judaism class when I was 11 years old. We walked into that synagogue as strangers, but we didn't leave that way. My mom discovered a new faith, one that honored her questioning and made her feel whole. My dad reclaimed his culture that he'd always had pride in, but hadn't always quite known how to access. And I found the thing that would guide my entire life. But here's the key point. My family chose to walk through a building's doors. Many people never will, but not because they don't care, and not because they aren't curious, and certainly not because they don't want a Jewish circle. But for so many Jews, especially those who live far away from Jewish institutions or who feel unsure or who feel disconnected. Walking into a building is the hardest part. When I was 17, I spent a year in Poland working alongside the country's first female rabbi, supporting Jews who were just discovering their identity. These were committed, amazing people with no roadmap, no institutions, no childhood memories of Shabbat tables or youth groups. All they had was desire, curiosity, and the need for belonging. And so all they needed was someone willing to meet them where they were. And that's what we did. We established a progressive Jewish presence in a place where one hadn't existed in nearly 70 years. But not by pulling people in, by going out to them. After college, my work in Poland launched me into working across small communities in the Deep South. These were Jews who had held onto their identities with grit and pride in places where Jewish life wasn't always visible or easily accessible. They were passionate, they were devoted, they were hungry for engagement, and every single one of them deserved access to their culture just as much as someone living in the biggest Jewish hubs in the country. My work there continued to teach me what resilient Judaism looks like and what it means to show up for people who are searching. My experiences with what I lovingly call fringe communities has been the most meaningful and transformative part of my career. It has shaped the direction of my professional journey, and it remains at the heart of who I am. And I thought that chapter of my life had to end when I moved to Austin. I never lived in a place with a Jewish population that large, with the exception of college, Brandeis, woo. But the truth is, Austin really surprised me, because there the fringes are everywhere. They're not rural, but they're dispersed. Individuals and families tucked into every corner of the city and its sprawling suburbs. They are new, they are growing, they are seeking. And I am lucky enough to work for an organization that recognized it. Over the last few years, we studied, we listened, we analyzed PJ Library heat maps and demographic data. We held focus groups across far-flung neighborhoods. We learned that thousands of Jews were out there, young adults, parents, retirees, eager to connect, but unlikely to walk into a building to do it. So, we changed the paradigm. Instead of asking people to come to us, we went to them. We showed up in coffee shops, playgrounds, living rooms, breweries, and backyards. We built micro-communities and brought Jewish life straight to people who had been waiting for someone to say, "We see you, and we are here." And we didn't just offer programming. We invested in people. We hired 2 full-time connectors and trained them to lead the charge. We provided funding and practical tools that empowered individuals to shape their own experiences. Through more than $7,000 in microgrants, countless one-on-one conversations, and unwavering support, we made sure that no one had to create alone. Because we all know that the real magic happens peer-to-peer, and the relationships and collaborations that continue long after any single program ends. These aren't small things. These are leadership moments. It's a mom who tells us that the programming we brought near her is the main reason her family has made friends since moving to Austin. It's a family who now feels confident to host other families at their home to celebrate Hanukkah. It's a dad of a different background who can now forge a path forward in helping to co-create a Jewish life for his family. Federation leadership is not about buildings. It's about people. It's about relationships, courage, and showing up in small, consistent, deeply human ways. And yes, it is hard work. It is so much easier to serve only those who are already involved. But our tradition doesn't ask us to take the easy path. Moses didn't think he could lead. Esther didn't think she was ready. And yet both stepped forward. When Esther was struggling, Mordecai posited, "Perhaps you were born for such a time as this." As Federation professionals holding leadership roles in this moment, we are navigating a difficult time. Across our communities, people are losing friendships and long-held relationships over disagreements about core values and defining issues. Many are feeling isolated, unsure of where they belong or who stands with them. It's a time when those on the margins need us the most. A time when your work, your kindness, your creativity, and your courage matters more than ever. We are the right leaders for this time. So as we gather here over the next few days, I hope you feel proud, I hope you feel inspired, and I hope you leave remembering that every one of you has the power to help someone feel connected when it really counts. I'll leave you with the words of my boss and mentor, just be awesome. Our community needs and deserves nothing less. Thank you.
Please welcome the local professionals from the Center for Jewish Philanthropy of Greater Phoenix.
Welcome to Phoenix, Arizona. You know you're in Phoenix when cold tap water is warmer than hot tap water. And you also know you're in Phoenix when the first questions are, where are you from and how long have you lived here? You know you're in Phoenix when Gila monsters, rattlesnakes, javelina, and scorpions are your neighbors wandering in the desert again. And you know you're in Phoenix when cotton is a crop and a clothing requirement.
You know you're in Phoenix when a robot is driving you and it somehow feels safer than most humans. You know you're in Phoenix when the temperature is in the high 60s and we are freezing. Welcome to winter here. You know you're in Phoenix when the stupid hiker law exists and so does the stupid driver law. And you know you're in Phoenix when we say, may you live to 120, but we really mean, may you live through another 120-degree weather day.
You know you're in Phoenix when you can fry an egg on the sidewalk or bake cookies on your dashboard. You know you're in Phoenix when primetime TV is at 7 o'clock, everything closes by 9, and daylight savings time is a myth. You know you're in Phoenix when choya looks like challah and teaches you the difference the hard way.
You know you're in Phoenix when our summer camp's only scheduled outside activity is swimming. You know you're in Phoenix when everyone you all saw at the airport yesterday was hungover from the Waste Management Open. You know you're in Phoenix when your Shabbat candles melt in half the expected time. And you know you're in Phoenix when you try and schedule a board meeting in July and realize you have to go to the beaches of San Diego to ensure quorum.
You know you're in Phoenix when the leaves don't change color with the seasons, but the license plates do. You know you're in Phoenix when it's a dry heat, dry, like matzah. You know you're in Phoenix when you can say haboob without laughing. You know you're in Phoenix when, though you are in a desert larger than the entire state of New Jersey, you need not wander aimlessly. While you are here, please visit jewishphoenix.com to learn all about the incredible things that this Jewish community has to offer. My name is Rich Casper. I'm the CEO of the Center for Jewish Philanthropy of Greater Phoenix, which is the name we adopted about 4 years ago for our federation. On behalf of our incredible professional team, most of whom are standing here with me, welcome to Phoenix. We are delighted to have you here. Now please rise for our national anthems.
Please welcome Board of Trustees immediate past chair Julie Platt and Vice Chair Jeff Schoenfeld.
Good afternoon and welcome to Fedpro. As volunteer leaders of our Federation system, Jeff and I are truly honored to join you for this opening plenary alongside our fellow members of the JF&A Board of Trustees. It is a joy and a privilege to be with the professionals who are the backbone of Jewish communal life across North America. We want to begin by saying how grateful we are for you. As volunteers, we have the opportunity to help set vision and steward resources, but it is you, the professionals, who carry the day-to-day sacred responsibility of strengthening and sustaining flourishing Jewish communities. You ensure that Jewish life remains vibrant, resilient, rooted in values, and alive with possibility. We want to express our deepest gratitude to Liz Fisher, Jess Spalboni, and Pam Kurtzman, the amazing architects and planners for this incredible conference. Fedpro represents something we as volunteer leaders care deeply about, investing in the people who make Jewish community happen. You nurture identity, mobilize care in moments of crisis, build bridges across difference, and create the pathways through which Jewish life flourishes generation after generation.
I have the privilege of chairing JF&A's Talent Initiative, and I've been in the background as this conference was being planned, but it is something wow to see the talent and energy in this room. When we look around the room, we see the living infrastructure of the Jewish future. You are an incredibly talented group of professionals who lead with equal parts purpose, skill, and heart. Our Federation system has always understood that communities don't flourish by accident. We all know they flourish because of our professional talent, fundraisers, planners, engagement leaders, Israel and global staff, finance and operations teams, communicators, security professionals, emerging leaders, and so many others who make Jewish life vibrant in every corner of our network. Let me be very clear. Investing in our professional talent is not optional. It's a strategic imperative. If we want strong federations, inspired philanthropy, secure communities, and deep engagement with Israel and the global Jewish people, we must nourish talent who make all of it possible. Thriving Jewish communities are built by well-supported, well-trained, well-connected, inspired professionals.
Our tradition teaches Kol Yisrael Arevim Zeh B'Zeh. We are each responsible for one another. That value sits at the very heart of the Federation system and guides us as trustees and volunteers. When we invest in talent, develop leaders, and create space for learning and collaboration, we strengthen not only individual professionals, but the entire field. And when our professionals grow, our communities flourish, spiritually, organizationally, and communally. This is how we build a resilient, joyful, purpose-driven Jewish future.
As you kick off Fedpro 2026, we encourage you to take full advantage of these days together. Learn deeply, connect boldly, open your minds to learning from the experiences in other communities, share your own wisdom and your questions, build relationships that will endure long after the final session ends. Your leadership ensures that Jewish communities from our largest metropolitan centers to our smallest but mighty federations continue to thrive with strength, purpose, and hope. Thank you for all you do.
Thank you for being here at Fedpro. Thank you for the sacred work you do every day. And thank you for your partnership with lay leaders like us as we work together to strengthen Jewish life. May this gathering lift you up, replenish your spirit, and deepen our shared commitment to building a thriving Jewish future. It is now my honor to welcome Kate Gallego, the Mayor of Phoenix. A national leader in civic innovation and growth, Mayor Gallego has been a strong partner to the Jewish community and a champion for building resilient, thriving cities. We're grateful to be gathered here in Phoenix and deeply appreciative of her leadership and presence here today. Mayor.
Well, welcome to Phoenix, everyone. We are so thrilled to have you here. And it's a special honor for me. I am the first Jewish woman to serve as mayor of Phoenix. To Julie and Jeff, thank you for your leadership and the kind introduction. We are so happy to be hosting Fedpro here. It really is a huge compliment for us, and we want to make sure that we do a great job taking care of you. I made sure to order sunny weather for your time while we were here, and we hope you enjoy the weather in Phoenix. We're excited to have people from all over North America and beyond with us here today. We hope we had a good welcome for you at America's friendliest airport. The Wall Street Journal has ranked us the #1 airport in the country. It obviously helps when you're sunny about 330 days a year to have on-time performance. And depending on when you got here, you might have seen, they had Rich's presentation had a little allusion to it. We just had the best attended golf tournament in the United States that just ended on Sunday, so you may have seen some folks leaving for that. And then in a few weeks, we'll welcome half of Major League Baseball here for spring training. So, baseball fans, come back. We also have amazing restaurants, James Beard winners and Iron Chef winners, just blocks from here, so we hope you get to enjoy the culinary scene. Our official city cocktail is called the Phoenix, and it's a tequila-based drink that has some prickly pear in it, so you can drink cactus juice while you're in Phoenix. You also can enjoy our wonderful parks. We have one of the largest park systems in the country with 41,000 acres. And my Chamber of Commerce would like me to ask you, you see the cacti behind me? The big one is called a saguaro. And if you could do a selfie with yourself hiking and then post the temperature, the Chamber of Commerce would really appreciate that for the rest of the country to see what it is like here. We are known as the Valentine State because we became a state on February 14th. So very cool to have you here during our statehood week. Our conferences are often known for being very romantic, so maybe, who knows, this week. I love welcoming people to Phoenix and talking about our city, but it's really special for me to welcome the Jewish Federations of North America here today. It's my understanding that we have 105 of the 141 Jewish federations represented here today. It's my goal that this be the best Fedpro ever, so we'll do our part on that. And a special welcome, I understand there's 400 people here who are attending their first Fedpro, so we will special welcome to you. The work you do is so incredibly important, and the value of Tikkun Olam could not be more essential in today's work. So thank you for taking on the big challenges, from education to protecting our environment to fighting anti-Semitism. We have an incredible group here. You got to see the humorous side of them, but the Center for Jewish Philanthropy has been a really powerful force for good, and I hope we'll get to showcase some of the incredible work they're doing here. Our voters are also stepping up in big ways. One of the things that's really special about Phoenix is right now we're building a Holocaust Memorial Education Center, but one of the things that's different from many other cities, we actually went to our voters for the funding. And our voters overwhelmingly said, yes, we want to invest in Holocaust education. We are willing to back this with our property tax. This is a thing, we're willing to have a little bit higher taxes so that everyone in our community can know about Holocaust education. And that's a consistent value in Arizona. All of our charter and public school students learn about the Holocaust and other genocides, and we really are trying to put history at the forefront. We also have a pretty cool history of Jewish mayors in the city of Phoenix. For many large cities in America, the first Jewish mayor was elected during the lifetime of people in this room, but not so in Phoenix. We elected our first Jewish mayor in 1885. So really cool, robust Jewish history where we've long been a welcoming city. We're also one of the very few big cities in America that have had a Jewish male mayor and a Jewish female mayor. So it's I think, part of our core values here. We've had a robust Jewish community here. You're not far from where Steven Spielberg had his home synagogue when he was growing up in Phoenix, and where he had his bar mitzvah. So very cool history here, and a really warm and welcoming community. I hope that we will show you a great time, that you'll get a lot done. And so thank you for the important work you've dedicated your life to, and thank you for choosing Phoenix for this important meeting.
Please welcome the Jewish Federations of North America's President and CEO, Eric Fingerhead.
It's so great to see you. Thank you, Mayor Gallegos, for welcoming us to Phoenix. A great, strong Jewish woman mayor here in Phoenix. Thank you. Okay, I need the house lights up. Can we pick up the lights? So on your table, there are some text sheets, study sheets. Pass them around. Everybody grab a study sheet. And we're going to do something that we call studying Torah together. And I want to say to all of my incredible colleagues, shh, I need your attention. I'm going to say to all my incredible colleagues of other faiths that what we're going to study, I deliberately picked a text that is our common shared heritage from what the Christians call the Old Testament, what we call the Tanakh, what we call the Torah. This is actually a section of the Torah, of the Old Testament from the book of Exodus that we read just this last Saturday morning. All of us who were in synagogue or had the opportunity read the story of the giving of the Ten Commandments on the top of Mount Sinai. So this is a participatory section of the program. We can't have a gathering of 1,000 professionals together and not study and learn something together. There are 3 people with microphones roaming around, and I need somebody who likes to read. Who likes to read out loud? Raise your hand. I know there's somebody, and the microphone is going to find one of our people. Come on, just pick somebody. There's the microphone in the back. If you don't raise your, I see a hand right there. There's a hand in the back right there. Okay. Got somebody? All right, introduce yourself. Tell us where you're from, what your job is.
Andrea Alfie, Jewish Federation of Orange County, Director of Leadership and Community Relations.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay, please begin in English. On the third new moon.
On the third new moon, after the Israelites had gone forth from the land of Egypt, on that very day they entered the wilderness of Sinai.
Okay, pause for a second. Anything that you find interesting about this sentence? We know, first of all, that we're now 3 months after the Exodus, right? The Israelites came through the Red Sea, and it tells us exactly when we are. It's the third new month. Anything you want to notice in this sentence? Why does it say on that very day? Right? We know now. They told us what day it is. Why do we have to repeat on that very day? Any ideas? So there's a famous explanation given by the great Torah sage Rashi, who's probably the most cited Torah sage of all time. And he said, it says on that day to teach us that every day is that day. Every day is the day of the giving of the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai, the day that we receive the Torah. So my friends, today, the opening of Fedpro 2026 is by Yom Hazeh, is on that day. Today is the day that we receive the Torah. Today is the day that we receive the 10 Commandments. Please continue reading.
Having journeyed from Rephidim, they entered the wilderness of Sinai and encamped in the wilderness. Israel encamped there in front of the mountain.
Okay, let's keep going.
And Moses went up to God. The Eternal called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus shall you say to the house of Jacob, and declare to the children of Israel.
Okay, let's pause there. Thank you. Now, and Moses went up to God, and then the Eternal called to him from the mountain. Any thought on that? What's interesting about that? And Moses, I didn't hear you, please. Do two different names of God. Very interesting point. Two different names of God. If they gave me an extra 5 minutes, I would go into it, that, an explanation of that, but they didn't give it to me. But yes, in front, please.
Why did Moses go up before God?
What a please. And now tell us who you are. Eileen Freed from Ann Arbor, Michigan, CEO. Eileen asks, why did Moses go up before God called him? It's a great question, isn't it? You would think you wait until you're called. So there's actually two different stories. By the way, we don't really know, of course, what happened. So our rabbis, our sages over the years, they create different explanations. They try to find what the real meaning is. And so they have two different possibilities. One is this. If you go back to the story of the burning bush, you remember Moses at the burning bush, it's where God said, you got to go to Pharaoh and tell him to let my people go. You remember all that? He actually tells him, God tells Moses that after you get the Israelites out of Egypt, you're going to come worship me on the mountain. So one explanation is that once they got to the mountain, Moses went up every morning, waiting for God to say, today's the day. Nice explanation, right? The second one was this. God knew how much Moses had been through. He had been through going to Pharaoh and slavery and watching people suffer and then leading them out and going through the Red Sea and the risk. And so God didn't want to make the first move. He waited till Moses was ready and came up the mountain. And then God called to him and said, please come up, Moses. Isn't that beautiful? Think about your engagement work in the community. Think about our own lives, our own families. We're always waiting for someone else to make the first move. We have to be the ones to reach out and engage. Okay, please continue. You're doing such a good job.
You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to me.
Okay, let's stop there. Anything about eagle's wings? I want to especially ask my friends, my colleagues of Christian faith, who's here who recognizes the eagle's wings phrase? Any church choir members here at Fedpro? This is an image that's been so beautifully embraced by faiths of all kinds, but especially at Christian faith. In fact, there's an entire organization called Eagle's Wings of Christians who support the state of Israel and who are organized. We're having a fly-in together with them in Washington to lobby on behalf of Israel with an organization called Eagle's Wings. It comes from this. By the way, it's one of the famous hymns in church. Anybody know this? And I will lift you up on eagle's wings. Have you heard that? This is one of the most beautiful images from the Bible that is embraced by faiths of all kinds. Continue.
Now then, if you will obey me faithfully and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples. Indeed, all the earth is mine.
Continue.
But you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the children of Israel.
Thank you. Did a great job. Give her a round of applause. A kingdom of priests. What does it mean to be a kingdom of priests? You know, there's a great story told about Golda Meir. You know who Golda Meir was? Golda Meir was the prime minister of Israel. That she was visiting President Richard Nixon, who was president of the United States at the time. And they were comparing notes and complaints about what it's like to lead their respective countries, how difficult it was for the President of the United States to lead the United States, how difficult it was for the Golda Meir to lead the state of Israel. And she said, you know, Mr. President, here's the issue. You are the president of 150 million people. I'm the prime minister of 6 million prime ministers. We're all the priests. It's not a bug, it's a feature. It's the design of Jewish life. It's the design of Jewish community. Every single one of you is the priests of Israel. You are the leaders, every one of us. And therefore, we all have the rights, but we all have the responsibilities of leadership. It's right there. In what we were told on Mount Sinai, it's not a late-breaking development. It's the core essential element of leadership for the Jewish people. And finally, what does it mean to be a holy nation? What does it mean to be a holy nation? We're both a kingdom of priests, we're all leaders, and we're called to be a holy nation. So if you turn over to the back, and because of time, I'm going to do the reading here. I want to give you just one little taste, one example of what it's like to be a holy nation. So first, comes from the Talmud, which is the compendium of rabbinic discussions about what the Torah meant. That's all the Talmud is. And in this case, one of the rabbis says, what's the meaning when it says we should walk in God's ways? What does that mean? And somebody said, it can't mean that we literally follow behind God, because after all, if you're in God's wake, there's a devouring fire. It could be dangerous. We wouldn't do that. And so the other says, here's what it means. Here's what it means to be a holy nation, to walk in God's ways. It means that we should follow the attributes of the Holy One, of God. God clothes the naked. Remember it in the Garden of Eden. God literally put clothes on Adam and Eve when they became exposed. So we too should clothe the naked. God visits the sick. If you remember, when Abraham was sick, God brings angels to visit him. So we too should visit the sick. And God consoles the mourners. The first time in the Bible when Abraham dies, his son Isaac is bereft. And God sends him consolation. We too should console the mourners. And just as God buried the dead, and God in the Bible buries Moses with his own hands, with God's own hands, so too should we bury the dead. And friends, the last living hostages came home from captivity in Gaza on December 13th, 2025, last year. But we didn't take off our ribbons. We continued to advocate and to pray and to engage and insist and bring to the public awareness until the very last one of our brothers and sisters was brought home so we could bury the dead. And it was just 2 weeks ago that Ron Gavili, the body of Ron Gavili, a great hero of the Jewish people of blessed memory, was brought home from Gaza. And even, that's not even an accurate way of describing what happened. Do you know what happened? You know that the Israel Defense Forces, they actually captured an informant to get the information. They sent in over 100 technicians and engineers and medical professionals, guarded by 2 infantry units, and they examined 250 bodies until they found the body of Ron Gavili of blessed memory. And then they draped him in a flag. And here's what happened next. Up on the screen are the words of the song they were singing. Please. Whether you can read the Hebrew or the English transliteration, or just sing along with the melody. Please sing along with me. Ani ma'amin b'emunah shelema b'viat HaMashiach ani ma'amin. Now together. Be'af al pi she'itmamei ha'im kol zeh Achakelo, b'chol yom sheyavo, b'chol yom sheyavo. Now I want you to pound the table with me. V'yai lai lai, yai lai lai, yai lai lai lai, yai lai, yai lai lai, yai 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 lai lai. Stand up if you're able. Put your arms. One more time. My friends, this is what it means to be a holy congregation. This is what it is to be a holy nation, a holy people. Baruch atah b'voecha. Blessed were you in coming. Blessed be the learning you'll do together, the connections you'll make to each other. Blessed be your families and your communities and the Jewish people. Welcome to Fedpro.
Please welcome the Jewish Federations of North America's Chief Talent Officer, Liz Fisher.
As Federation professionals, we all need things to help us transition from heavy moments like that, from work to day, to sort of from work to home. And one of mine is food. I like to cook, I like to eat, and I especially like to read cookbooks. People always say to me, like, what do you do when you can't fall asleep? And I'm always reading cookbooks and food blogs. So it's really both a personal and professional pleasure to welcome Michael Solomonov to the Fedpro stage. For more than, all right, come on out.
I got really excited, you know? Oh, yeah.
I got a whole bio here, but Mike already told me we're doing this Israeli style. We're going to interrupt each other. He may or may not sit down, so whatever.
You just said backstage you were going to start singing for
right.
as well, right?
I told him we do every session. There's singing and, you know, all that stuff. You want me to tell them who you are, or should we just
super embarrassing.
Right.
Everybody knows who I am.
Sit down. Let's talk.
I'm going to go. Okay, yeah. Let's
sit.
We're
talk.
good.
All right. You know what? We'll start here. Zahav is turning 18 this year, your first flagship restaurant.
It's a big deal. Chai's a very big deal for us.
It is. So tell us, like, how do you go from, I don't know, baby on Moshav to Israeli food entrepreneur?
Well, I think that this was all sort of by accident. I definitely grew up a really, really picky eater. And born in Israel, my father was born in Varna, Bulgaria, but grew up in Lod, which doesn't get a ton of press. Good press. And my mom, grew up in East Liverpool, Ohio, right, which is sort of a suburb of Pittsburgh, and her.
Every city you mention, people will cheer.
Well,
so if you want to just start throwing out names.
I like just saying Pittsburgh and Squirrel Hill over and over again. That's where I grew up, so it's great to have Yin's guys down here. Thank God I lost the accent. But so My mom grew up in East Liverpool, Ohio. Her father was the pediatrician of the town and was very, very, very involved in Israel bonds. And they went to Israel all the time growing up. And I think, my family they're staunch Zionists, right? And so my mom, when she could, moved to Israel because of her Zionism, but mostly so she could date whoever she wanted. And met my father, and they had me, and my father, of course, wanted to move to the United States. And my mom never wanted to leave, and ironically, her side of the family owned a jewelry store in Pittsburgh, so my father could fulfill his birthright of being an Israeli jeweler in the United States. It was a place called Unger's. I don't know if anybody here remembers that, but it was in downtown Pittsburgh. And so, Squirrel Hill is like not, I thought that most American cities had people speaking Yiddish in the streets all the time. I didn't realize that that wasn't the case. So having a father that was Israeli wasn't the weirdest thing, but we grew up with trina on the table and not butter. We were, I think, quite secular, but still had like a lot of tradition. And I don't know, I mean, not everybody, but like a lot of my friends, a lot of our family our friend group was Jewish. So it wasn't like you didn't really have to try that hard. Honestly, it reminded me of like Israel a little bit. Everybody just kind of had Shabbat. I don't know if it was religious or not, but that was just like what people did. We ended up moving back to Israel when I was 15. My little brother David, who was born in the States, was 12. And I ended up going to a boarding school in Pardes Chana, which is now cool and kind of like alternative lifestyle, but at the time was like where all the immigrants would move and smell. It was an agricultural school. So we rolled around in manure basically and picked pomelos. That was like our activity on Tuesdays.
Pomelo, if you don't know, it's like a giant grapefruit.
Right, and I will also say American kids from the United States are not great at being farmhands. So we were very ineffective at that.
But for this at 15.
But it was a really amazing experience. It was sort of the mid-90s, and there was a lot happening in Israel at the time. This was sort of pre-Second Intifada, but things were still like a little bit crazy and hostile. But the feeling of freedom, discovery, I mean, we would like hitchhike everywhere. And we, with whatever, 50 shkalim that we were allotted for the weekend, we would just try to get as far as we could. And it was a really amazing program. The organizers and the founders of the school, it was sort of the alternative to like the Moss School in Oda Sharon. Rena and Reuven were just the most intelligent, charismatic people, and we would essentially learn about Israel 5,000 BCE up until the present day. So it changed my life. I was really pissed off to leave Squirrel Hill, Pittsburgh at the age of 15. And my family moved to Kfar Saba. My mom was a school teacher there. My brother assimilated, and my dad opened a few Subway sandwich places because he owned one of those in Pittsburgh as well. Not great kosher, I would say, but whatever. I moved back to the States. That was the condition that I moved to Israel, was that I could come back and finish high school in Squirrel Hill and then go to university. The moment I came back to the United States, after fighting for a year, pissing off my parents, getting in a lot of trouble, I finally come back to the States, and I felt like something was missing. Which I think we can all probably relate to. I still have that feeling so many years later. 30 years later, I still feel like whenever I'm here, I don't totally belong. And so I came back, and I was like, finished high school, somehow got into college by the grace of God, and dropped out like 3 semesters later, moved back to Kfar Saba, and needed a job. And I was like a 3-semester art major with very limited Hebrew, so my job prospects were not wonderful in Israel. And I just walked up and down Rehov Weitzman in Kfar Saba and went to a bakery, and I was like, I grew up eating borekas, obviously, because of my grandmother, and I was like, okay, I work here, and they were like, sure. So the word for bakery in Hebrew is what? Mafia. So I thought I was gonna like enlist in the mafia, and the pay would have been a little bit different than what I was making. I didn't want to be a chef. I didn't want to be a baker, and I knew nothing about hard work. So it was a great. I did. Every kind of person works at a bakery in Israel, and every single Israeli eats baked goods 5 times a day. And I was so used to taking, and and when you're baking chalot, on like Thursday at 11:30 at night to Friday 4 or 5 p.m., you're actually kind of part of the community. Like, it felt so generous. And that feeling of generosity is something that still is kind of in my blood. It feels so good. And I was making like 9 shekels an hour, so I was essentially working for free. But I just loved the camaraderie. I got to learn how to insult somebody's mother in 7 different languages. Working in a bakery, I learned about the true coexistence that does live in Israel, that doesn't make press because it doesn't involve murdering people, and I just felt like I fell in love with something. It was the hardest I'd ever worked, and it was so amazing. And so then I got a job working up the street at a coffee shop called The Coffee Tree, and I learned how to line cook there, and I was like, wow, this is, I really like things on fire, tickets, people shouting in different languages. It was an amazing way to learn Hebrew. And again, it was this feeling of actually participating in something cool. So I ended up deciding to go to culinary school, moved to Florida, which is a suburb of Israel, and Squirrel Hill, because I have an aunt in Boca Raton, which is a shocker. They all know my aunt, obviously.
Clearly.
I worked at what was Big City Tavern and then became Rocco's Tacos. I was the first
They're nodding.
I was
You
the
can
first
see them all
Jewish line
nodding.
cook in Boca Raton, Florida. And Aileen, of course you do. Of course you know my aunt. You all know my aunt.
I told Michael maybe
God,
he
I
should
love it.
walk around
I
in
love-
like a hat and sunglasses.
I love our
because
community, I
everybody
swear to
knows
God.
all his
I gotta tell you, I'm so honored to be here. It is really so wonderful. And so I went to culinary school, and I succeeded for what I thought was the first time in my life. I really fell in love with something, and I worked really hard, and I was not in prison, and my parents were really excited about that. So I ended up working at Big City Tavern, and then I moved to Philly because it was kind of on the way to New York. And I can't tell if it's probably New York, not Philly, but that's okay. It's all right.
I'm looking. I think
Philly's a
that's
wonderful, magical place, and I moved there with an ex-girlfriend in 2001, and I've been there ever since. And I got a job working at a restaurant called Straight Bass, and then a job working at Vetri Restaurant, which is an amazing Italian restaurant. Mark Vetri, the owner, is one of my closest friends, and while all that was happening, my little brother David does what every Israeli kid does. He finished high school, joined Golani Brigade, and became a sniper. And this was before WhatsApp. So and I left Israel being the older brother, and so we were close, but not really. We lived on different continents for years. My parents had divorced, and David had sort of bore the brunt of all of it. Obviously, moving to Israel from the US during bar mitzvah age is like not an easy thing, and he had a pretty tough couple of years. So I ended up working at this restaurant, Vetri, which at the time closed for the month of August because it was like trying to be so Italian. American restaurateurs don't do that, but he wanted to do it. So, and it coincided with the little break that my brother got right before he finished military service. And so my mom was like, come back and visit. You and David are both off. I'll pay for your plane ticket, but you just have to cook dinner for my friends. Which seems easy, right?
I
her
I
idea.
don't know, doing something from your mom's friends. We understand your mom and her friends in this room.
We do, but much like my mother, you would probably invite 40 people.
Correct.
Right? Over 2 days. And so I was like, oh my God, I have to make dinner for all these people. This was the first time I had visited Israel with the lens of a chef. So I grew up eating like Yemenite soup in Hadera, right? Like Marak Tamani changed the way that I feel about food. My grandmother's borekas, obviously. Like all the things that it was so incredible to land in Israel and say, well, I have to prepare this meal for my mother and 100 of her friends or whatever, and I need to go up and down the country. And so my brother David and I just drove up and down the country getting like amba, getting, you know, all these different things. And it was a way, it helped distill this idea for me of what Israeli food was, which was not just falafel or hummus or shawarma. It was basically what you eat whenever you're invited to anybody's house on Friday or Saturday night, right? And this was at a time where Israeli chefs, I mean, I remember going to a restaurant in Jerusalem, Arcadia, and it was like beef tornadoes with foie gras and truffle. And I'm like, okay, so at that time, if you wanted to be a chef and you were Israeli, you went to France or you went to Italy or Japan, and then you went back to Tel Aviv or Jerusalem and opened one of those restaurants. But the reality is, one of your grandparents was Kurdish, one was Yemeni, one was Moroccan, one was Polish. Shabbat lunch or dinner is far more stimulating than making tornadoes racini with black truffle in Jerusalem. And so at the time, you know, I was like, I can't believe all of these different things. And what's interesting is that Yemenite Jews, there's no Jews in Yemen, right? Yemenite Jewish cooking, which is different than Yemeni cooking because of Shabbat, obviously, and because of the overnight, all the chagim, and then also no milk and meat and no shellfish and no pork. Those cuisines, Israel is a repository for 100 different gastronomies that don't exist in their home country anymore. Baghdad was more Jewish than New York City. How many Jews are living in Iraq right now? 0, I think. I don't know. So Israel is this, I mean, it is this repository for all of these things. It explains thousands of years of Jewish cooking. I mean, Jews in Baghdad were cooking eggplant like before Islam, right? Like the culinary traditions that are found in this country that is the size of New Jersey is living and breathing, and it is so fascinating. And to experience it in real time was incredible. And to be able to do it with my brother, who I hadn't hung out with or been on the same continent or didn't know what he was doing. I was sitting there working with French chefs that were total assholes, freaking out. My brother had become a sniper, was defending like our country, right? And still was a wonderful, nice kid that had gone through divorce and all this stuff. And it was like so amazing to be in a car with him for 3 weeks. We made these 2 dinners that were objectively excellent.
I'm sure.
And David was going to go back to the military and then move to the United States to go to college. And so I came back. I became the sous chef at Vetri. David and I, we'd gone so long without really talking frequently on the phone. And I remember just calling him over and over again and being like, I've got this best friend. I've got this brother now that like we can actualize it. It's a pretty rare thing. It's a pretty important thing to do, is to tell the people that you love how much you love them all the time. The last time I saw him, I hugged him because he was going to go to, he was doing his, I can't remember the name of like the testing that they do over there, not the SATs, but whatever. He was like,
They're like Bagroots.
yeah, it's like Bagrut, yeah, he was doing like Bagrut lessons or whatever, to get ready for college. And I remember hugging him and kissing him on the cheek, and my little brother was like embarrassed and blushed, So I came back to the States, I become a sous chef. Vetri restaurant was closed on Yom Kippur. I went to Pittsburgh to grab my father's old car to drive it to the States for David. I was like in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I get a call from my aunt. And she's like, you need to call me the moment you get home. And I could tell something was wrong. And so I pull the car over and I'm like, Aunt Ava, what is going on? And she was like, David was killed earlier today. And I was like, there's no way this was like his last week. And it was on Yom Kippur. And I had just seen him, and he had switched with, he was 3 days away from his release. His unit was patrolling the north by the Good Fence, actually in Metula, and he had switched with somebody that was observant, and he was killed by Hezbollah snipers that were inside of Lebanon. And so obviously, it's the worst thing that you can imagine, and it took a very long time for it to sink in, like a day basically. And they're kept, I don't know if any of you can relate to this sort of trauma thing, but I was like, okay, I have to like drive the car to get back home, right? And I drove back to, I lived in the art museum area of Philadelphia, and I knew that there was a synagogue or a temple like on Broad Street, Road of Shalom, because I'd driven by it, not like I'd ever went to shul, especially when I was line cooking. And I was like, all right, I think I just need to like walk to shul. Like I just, and so I like walk down and everybody was leaving. It was the end of services basically. And I walked in and just like sat in the sanctuary for I don't even know how long. And then I left and I was like, this can't really be happening. And I was like, I'm just gonna go to sleep. And if I go to sleep, I'm gonna wake up, this is gonna be a bad dream. And it was like every little firewall was like failing, right? And I end up getting to the airport the next day. And then, I get to the flight, my family, Auntie Lean, everybody's there. We're all just like, I can't believe this is happening. And I go to get on the flight, the El Al flight, and like, they give you a newspaper, and there was a picture of my brother on a stretcher, surrounded by soldiers that I'd seen a month before, going to the beach, going to like parties, all standing around him. And I was like, I like can't believe this is happening. So eventually we make it to Israel, and once you start seeing the obituary notices all over the apartment buildings, it becomes a little bit real. And seeing my,
I want to hug you.
No. Listen, now I'm a parent. I mean, I have a newfound respect for my parents, obviously. But like, my mother, the first thing she said when she saw me was like, I'm just so happy that you guys had that time together, And those are really important moments. So obviously, my life had changed. I didn't know what was going to happen outside of that. I mean, honestly, I wanted to like enlist into the IDF. I wanted to like die. I wanted to live my brother's life and die his death, frankly. I got talked out of that eventually, but I moved back to the States. I finished my time at Vetri as sous chef. And God, I remember this actually, the farmer. So David was killed in an apple orchard in Metula, literally the most beautiful place maybe on earth. And the farmer brought a bushel of Pink Lady apples to the Shiva, and they were the sweetest goddamn apples. And I was like, I can't believe this. And it was this thing that we all know, this juxtaposition of dark and light, of beauty and pain, and all this stuff that is our relationship to Israel, right? It's the way that we explain this country. And I used to say that Zahav was a way to sort of explain a country that was misunderstood. I didn't think it would continue to be misunderstood the way it is,
So yeah, so let's just talk for a second. I'll let you like have a sip of water and about the being misunderstood. Like I can only imagine what it's been like to be a sort of entrepreneur in the business of Israeli culture and food, particularly in the post-October 7th world. So like, what's it been like? You've been operating your restaurants. I think right after October 7th is when you went kind of commercial into the grocery stores.
Right.
So
right.
Like,
well, what's it been like?
Why are you not running around screaming at everyone all the time?
I do run around scream, but I think that the thing is, like, we opened an Israeli restaurant. At the time, PR companies are like, isn't that political? And I'm like, well, I'm from Israel. And nobody's understanding of Israeli cuisine, I think, is accurate, right? And so for us, we just wanted kids to come in and eat and be like, wow, we have a positive association with Israel. I wanted to be able to explain this incredible diaspora, and I wanted to also advocate for this country that my brother died defending, right? And so I just didn't think, I thought that 2008 was complicated. I didn't think it would get harder. And it definitely is harder. But what's it like now? As you can imagine, there's a bunch of strangers on Instagram that hate my guts. Tons of them, whether they're real people or whether they're bots. They hate my guts. I think that I'm in the stage of life of not caring that much about those things because they're not important. Yeah. Right? And so, and I keep thinking, like, we've always been as inclusive as possible. We have wine lists we purchase Palestinian wines, we promote Palestinian farmers as much as we can. We've always done these things. I've been very disappointed, and maybe I was naive prior, thinking that that would give some sort of credit to my inclusivity when it came to the long-term discussion and narration of what it means to be Israeli. And I was wrong, you know? And I was just saying this earlier. I was talking to another chef friend of mine who's Jewish. Her cuisine is not represented. She doesn't cook Israeli food. She doesn't really cook Jewish food. She's not outspoken on Israel. And we had a call this morning, and she was like, I don't know what's happening, but like the comment section, the conversations that are being written about me are really insane. And I posted a picture of my baby, and somebody wrote, "It's too Jewish." And I was like, I'm not surprised. And maybe years ago I would have been surprised. And so I guess, you know, and again, I'm just repeating things that we all listen to on all the podcasts that we listen to all the time. It doesn't matter, like, as an Israeli, there's nothing I like more than driving really fast and then criticizing the government of Israel, right? It's like paddleball on the beach in a bikini, shouting at a TV.
Eating tahina.
All those things, right? I love it. But like, it's not about how much I despise the government or fly over there to protest the government. It's not about how much I have opened the table and opened the restaurant and tried to platform other chefs, you know, that are Palestinian or Arab or whatever. It really, at the end of the day, I just think people don't like Jews, you know? And so we can play these sort of academic, you know, games. And that's kind of what I told her. I was like, listen, you just got to pay attention to those people that are in your corner and those people that have your back right now. And, you know, we all have the sort of like October 8th, like, oh my God, can you believe whatever? And it's happened for years. And we should have seen it coming, sure. You know, to our credit, we've stood behind everybody. We've marched, we've held hands, we've sometimes kind of like cringed when it came to like movements that were maybe contradictory or, you know, whatever. We've done all those things, and I think that we all as a community expected more when it was happening to us. I will say the thing that kind of like really woke me up, again, I hate to keep referencing social media because I'm like 47 years old, and I don't have time for it, but Mark Vetri, my really good friend, who flew with me to Israel the winter after David was killed to cook a dinner for the rest of Golani Shlosh Yisrael in Metula. Yeah, which is amazing. He wanted to like roast a suckling pig, and I'm like, Mark, they're not gonna let us do that. And he was like, Vila Sabuco, and I'm like, so we made schnitzel for like 300 of my brother's units, but you know, we've been through it, right? We've been through it, and we did a benefit dinner. He's a really big involved in Alex's Lemonade Stand, which is a childhood cancer fundraiser. And Liz and Jay Scott, parents of Alex, are good friends of ours. And so we did an auction item cooking at their house, and there was a picture of me, Mark, two other chefs, and somebody wrote, and he posted a picture of it, and somebody wrote, Mike Solomonov looks like an anti-Semitic Jewish caricature. And I was like, and it wasn't even like an anonymous person. If you went to their profile, it was like their family. And I was like, holy shit, like that. And I was just waiting for one person to write back and say, wow, that's completely unacceptable and very offensive. Nobody did it. And Mark took down the post, and the comment. I kind of wish he didn't. But that's the thing that's been so hard for me.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe that's just the icing on the cake, and maybe that is what informs the way that we make decisions as business owners, as community leaders. And you know, I don't criticize. I know people are scared. They don't want to get involved. Writers that have come with us to Israel will not write about our restaurants right now because they don't want a bunch of strangers that live in their parents' basement posting watermelon emojis on their comments. Like, I get it. I just am like, you know, we're the ones that are responsible for our own safety and well-being. And although I am very disappointed, I think that people don't want to get canceled or whatever, but this is something that we've been dealing with as a community for as long as we've been alive.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to do those things. And so I just, that part has been really disappointing to me.
Yeah.
I will say, Zahav is almost 18 years old and we're full and we're, I know, it's amazing.
So let me ask you a
Wait,
question.
18 years also in restaurants.
You told me I could interrupt you.
Yes, and I'm interrupting you. 18 years is like 180 years in restaurants. So the idea that with all this backlash, with all the hate, with all the me being genociding, oppressing, apartheid, whatever, people still come in and want to eat in our restaurants and we're full is, I think, the way that people actually feel about Israel.
Amazing.
Sorry.
Amazing.
Sorry to,
No.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's totally fine. So let me ask you a question, because it's not just you. So I think you have, 500 employees,
Yes.
right? And so how do you think about them and their culture? And I imagine that the diversity of your restaurants is similar to what you experience in some ways, like as a young baker in Israel, right? Like people from all over the United States and all over the world. And so what's it been like for your average, dishwasher in an Israeli restaurant? And how do you think about sort of building culture and resilience in your team?
Well, I would say that the dishwashers are all usually immigrants from different countries, and they do not have time for BS. What is interesting and something that and I told our governor, Josh Shapiro, our falafel shop got protested against or whatever, and it was a couple employees. Okay, so 5 days after October 7th, we did 100% of all of our revenues of all of our restaurants, we donated to United Hatzalah, right? And so it was a big deal for us. And my business partner, Steve, was like, we're only going to have a couple days to get this done before the narrative changes with Israel. And boy, was he right, right? Now, we all know what United Hatzalah is. They've trained Palestinian Red Crescent. They've gone over to Turkey after the earthquake, right? One of our employees was like, we sent this out to everybody, and we're like, we're doing this. And, I have a nephew that was in Gaza, called into reserves immediately after. And listen, raising $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever, United Hatzalah was amazing. Sending a photo of lines down the block in all of our restaurants for hours to my nephew was like maybe the most meaningful thing ever. I did not realize that a few of our employees were basically investigating the way that United Hatzalah was spending money, and we, didn't want to make it like we weren't trying to raise money for like the military, using all of the revenues, and we wanted it to be for first responders. There were 600,000 reserve activists that were also getting treated by Hatzalah as well, and that turned into like Mike is not only working for the Mossad, which I do.
Okay,
I don't know if,
you heard it.
Don't tell anybody. But also raising money for like the military or whatever. And I was just like, man, this is just lazy and kind of stupid. What I had told our governor after this protest was like, we should really talk about what's kind of happening, because the employees that made the stink about it were Jews. And I was like, wow, this is sort of a curveball that I wouldn't totally expect. And so to answer your question, not really, but very ambiguously, we have 500 or 600 employees that are of the demographic that we all know doesn't totally love Israel. Now, I'm not generalizing. I will say that this is a group of people that may generally not love Israel, but also make money from Israel too. So conviction is like a little, you don't have to work for my restaurants or anything like that. So again, I think it gets blown out of proportion. I think that I don't think we've done a great job for the past 20 years or 30 years of totally educating. I think a lot of kids have not known Israel other than the current government or whatever. They don't know history, certainly don't know history. That would be way too much to ask. And I think and then, as a business owner, I'm not gonna sit and lecture any of my employees to talk about politics, but in general, I think it's been very positive.
Amazing.
you know, I think that when you ask people and you poll people and you put them on the spot and they have to answer to their friends or to kids on campus or to like defend all these things, which is what no other ethnic group, no other cultural group would ever have to do, right? Nobody would ever be asked by a journalist, a food journalist, what their thoughts were on the Israeli I mean, I go to eat Chinese food. I don't ask the server how they feel about Uyghur Muslims, you know, in concentration camps. There are Yemeni restaurants in Philly. What do you think would happen if a Philadelphia food writer asked any of those owners what their thoughts were on the Houthis or Saudi or Emirates? It would be totally inappropriate. It would be bigoted and racist. And unfortunately, it is something that we deal with.
Amazing. I can't even believe it, but we are.
I'm sorry.
We've got a light blinking at us. So I'm just going to give you 30 seconds. You've got a room full of almost 1,000 Jewish professionals here. Like, what do you want these folks to know as they go back to their communities and do the work of really building flourishing Jewish community?
Whoa.
In less than 30 seconds, or we both get pulled off with the cake.
I thought you were going to ask what my favorite dish was. Or
Well, what I really want to ask you is, when in America, do we say hummus or hummus? And what do you really think of the baby carrot?
I think that the baby
I
think baby carrots are nonsense. I mean, for a couple reasons. One, I think that you should get.
I just knew you couldn't do the baby carrot in
listen.
30
Baby
seconds.
carrots are pre-peeled and they're sitting in a solution. And even if you buy them from Whole Foods, no bueno. Just get whole organic carrots. I don't even peel them. Number one.
You heard it here first. No baby carrots.
Number two, I would prefer that you ate pita, but whatever. I get it. Number three, it should be hummus.
Hummus, even you know. When
Number four, and I'm just going to quote a lot of people right now, which was what originally Philip Weiss and then Brett Stevens or whatever. If there's no seat at the table, just build your own table. You know, I'm looking at. The success, you know, it's like the door of a door. We are a product of the strong ancestry that we come from, the people that have like rolled up their sleeves, that dealt with way more violence and craziness and atrocity than we have. You just have to, I don't know, we have community right here. This is who we have to rely on. And when going gets tough, I don't know, I say the Shema like 100 times a day. Because my 12-step sponsor.
I can see from here that
I got
a Shema tattoo
I know.
here. Probably other. Yeah.
All the Chabad guys on, it's like a test for them. I'll wrap fill in, but we're going to do it over here, bro. Okay, but listen. I have a 12-step sponsor. After my brother died, I had a lot of issues with drugs that I'm very public about. If we had another 30 minutes, I would talk about it. I got clean and sober. My sponsor at the time was Jewish. And he was like, you need a mantra. And I was like, I don't have a mantra. And he was like, well, you went to Hebrew school, just say the Shema. And I was like, I can remember that, you know? Years later, it has actually worked. And I think that for me, it is oneness, right? And I feel like for me, it is basically repeating something that our people have said in worse times than this for thousands of years. And that energy and that spirit and that chutzpah is something that lives and breathes with all of us. And I'm proud. I'm proud to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. Mike Solomanoff, everyone.
See?
Okay. I think he's trying to walk off the stage, a place he can't go, so he may walk back. Have a seat. At Fedpro, we're committed to lifting up your voices. Each plenary is going to feature several Fed talks from our colleagues. Weren't they great at the beginning of this one? Amazing. And each plenary is going to nurture us with music from my new friends and our Fedpro house band, Distant Cousins. Let's bring them back. They're here already. So we're going to bring them back up to close us out with a song.